Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. In this video, basically, I'm going back to what I said initially that I want to talk about, namely that we are now in very close, hours away from Lionsgate. And this is important because this is a time which supposedly you receive help from the divine realm, from the lion race, and also from Sirius. Um, and this is a moment which supposedly would fine tune the situation for you in your spiritual fighting between the karmic board meeting in June and the one in December, right? So you have, overall speaking, we had in December a situational karmic cycle ending, but because it's a situational karmic cycle, essentially there's a lot of complex situations, many individuals, groups connected to the same bondage breaking, and so it doesn't really end instantly, to my disappointment, actually, because I broke the bondages in December, so I expected immediately a relief and everything to go away. But I had to learn that there are, as I said in the previous video, processes which essentially have to take place. And overall, of course, it's a victory. You close a cycle, but you broke a bondage. This is what I essentially did, and many others have done. But then you have multiple cycles of multiple type of darkness work done within that bondage, and all of those have to close. Then you have multiple forces connected to that situation, and the metamorphosis process of each force takes time, and it's not set in stone. As I said in the previous video, if that force is continues to feed on you, even if you broke the bondage and you close the cycle, basically the attacks will not stop because you did not succeed to send the force back. And that doesn't happen as easily. It depends, sometimes it depends literally on day-to-day decisions that you make. There are things which you have to do in 3D, and some of them would essentially facilitate those forces feeding on you, you want it or not. For example, any property that you ever had and you sold it will still carry your energy. That means anyone who's connected to that property, they will still feed on your light. Not as much as they want if they feed on you personally, but still they get your light. And that also delays the closing of the cycle and slows down the metamorphosis of that force, which essentially the end of the metamorphosis is to send that force back from where it came. I don't appreciate these people who do readings and talk about this Lionsgate and many other circumstances in general terms, because nothing is general. Everything is very particular to your situation and to your decision. For example, I'll give you just an example so you'll have an idea. God has said you do not get out of the house, because if you open the door, if you get out of the house, because all your neighbors have been recruited into these convents, that force which you want to send back is feeding on you through each and every one of them. So if you open the door and you step outside, they already feed on you because they are just in the next courtyard and they all watch you. And the force within them, the dark force within them, is watching you to feed on you. So if you want me, God said, if you want me to send that force back, you need to stop feeding it. Now, that's very easy to say, but it's very hard to do. Because, for example, I have my dog. So I said, so as I was talking to God, I was like, well, who's going to feed my dogs? I have to go to feed my dogs. I have to go to clean my courtyard. And there are many other chores that you have to do in a household. So how would I stay indoors when so many other things need to be done? You know, who should do them? So it's not set in stone. It depends, and sometimes you make a compromise. Namely, I made compromises, as you know, like God said, you know, today and tomorrow you simply just don't open the door or the window. And I was like, yeah, but I need to feed my dogs. I'm not gonna let them die out of hunger just because this stupid war, which actually should have been over by now. So the compromise was, okay, I'm gonna go feed my dogs. And then I accept the idea that the metamorphosis will slow down because they would get to feed on me. I will try to do it as fast as I can, but still I cannot leave them like this. Not to mention, for example, that of course I have a soul connection to my dogs because I raised them since they were born. So many times God is showing me they will feed on you through your dogs. So they do body jumping into your dogs to feed on you. And I was like, okay, what do you want me to do now? Because you told me to get these dogs. So now that's why I say, you know, it's very easy to give a general verdict, but there are so many other details in your life individually which can change completely the overall diagnosis of a situation. So normally you say, okay, I broke the bondage, everything should be over in 2 days, in a week, let's say. That means January. But then there are other things which impact the situation and transforms the situation. And sometimes, unfortunately, as much as you carry on the 3D normal day-to-day life, you keep feeding these forces from your energy. And you must understand while you do this that the entire 3D world and life has been conceived in such a way so these forces can feed on you. So you must understand that as much as you carry on normal day-to-day 3D life, you yourself, consciously or not, continue to feed these forces. And of course, ideally, you cut off everything, but sometimes you simply can't. Like I gave you this example, which is very simple. So, talking about Lionsgate still, because it's important, it is a fine-tuning in between the two karmic board meetings, the one in June and the one in December, where many of these cycles must be closed. But they will be closed pending on how much you listen to your divine guidance. I mean, if you continue to go to a 9 to 5 job, you must know that all of these forces that you try to cut off will feed on you and will do body jumping through everyone, your co-workers, your boss, your extended family, whoever, people, random people that you meet on the street even, you know. So you must understand, this is why I insist on the fact that it's very much particular analysis of the situation for each and every individual on the outcome. So the Lion's Gate, regardless of that, the Lion's Gate is meant for you to receive help. You have the Sirius and the Lion races, which assist the humanity in the 3D, the spiritual fighting in 3D. Of course, you have the Blue Lodge Ascended Masters of the Lion race, and Jesus is part of that, for example. All Ascended Masters are part of this Blue Lodge. I encourage you to ask their help. I constantly invoke them and ask their help, not only in August, but throughout the year. So you can work with them as well. And you will learn, depending on your particular situation and your identity and your lineage, which one of the ascended masters is closer to you, because each of them has a specialty, in a special gift that they can assist you with. And if you have the same type of purpose, or your gift falls into the same category, then clearly you're going to have specific ascended masters closer to you. You're going to work more with them. And that also depends from situation to situation. Or sometimes, because you need, I did this in my life, because you need to, specific bondages were created against me, and I needed to break a specific type of bondages, which require specific type of gifts. I developed a relation with specific ascended masters to help me develop that gift and abilities in working with that gift, so I can break that particular bondage. Okay, so that it goes both ways, either that this is part of your purpose, or that basically is part of your strategy with God to develop specific type of abilities in specific line of spiritual fighting, and those you get the help of a specific ascended master, which oversees that type of gift to help you break that bondage. And this is going to be a two-way street. The ascended master will help you develop those abilities, and in return, the spiritual fighting you do to break that bondage will give specific advantages to the field which is overseen by that ascended master. So this way he can help, that ascended master can help many other individuals whom he works with, right? So it's very beautiful, actually, when you take the time and you do this wholeheartedly and seriously, and you take it as a life purpose, or a strategy, to actually win. And that can be, as I said, part of your entire existence if it's part of your purpose, but it can also be a temporary cooperation with an ascended master, only to break a specific bondage which was created on you, or a specific bondage which was created on somebody from your lineage. Because, for example, I broke bondage for my lineage, and there were specific women in the lineage on which a specific type of bondage was created, and basically was impacting on me and everybody from the lineage. So I was like, of course, I told God, I said, well, okay, what do I have to do to break this? Because I need to release that type of darkness is basically blocking me in my own path. And since that woman, you say that she's not willing to fight, I will fight. I don't fucking care for her. I just want this to be over. I want this darkness to go away so I can focus on my purpose. Okay, so now you tell me what I need to do in order to get rid of this shit, which she brought on us, on all of us from lineage. Right? So you can also do it in a temporary, that doesn't have to be part of your whole existence or your purpose if you don't want it. It can also be, as I said, part of your strategy to break your overall bondage and to raise your vibration and to elevate. So it can be a temporary task, basically. God is whispering in my ear, temporary task. Okay, it can be a temporary task that you take upon to solve in order for you not to be bothered by those forces anymore, so you can move on and deal with your own purpose, not with the things which you inherit from others in the lineage. Because many times it happens that individuals from your lineage will bring all sorts of darkness, some addiction, some stupid shit, which basically are not part of you. You're not carrying those within your energy body. But the darkness that others from your lineage bring impacts on you too. And those dark forces basically work through that individual and make him claim you, and then sending all of these dark forces upon you to bother you, to lower your vibration, to feed on you, and so on. So I did this myself, so I share this information with you just so you know that you can do it. I did this myself. I tell you, so there were like individuals from my lineage whom in material existence I never spoke to. Even one of them actually is in the same community. I didn't know for his exist. I didn't even know he existed. He's a neighbor of mine. I didn't even know he existed. He lives on the same street with me, a few houses away from me. And I never spoke to him, not even good morning, or because I never had the opportunity. I only learned last fall about his existence, and I learned that he's from my lineage, and I learned that he had these addictions, among which were specific type of attachments, darkness attachments related to sexuality, to addiction, to drugs, and all of these in his life were addictions. Those were not. I was not doing any of that. Okay, so that type of entity, which was basically he working with him or through him, was not having authority on me because I was not doing any of that. But because it was feeding on him and then took claims on him, then I learned that he was working through him to feed on everybody from the lineage. Even if we were not in direct contact with one another, simply because of the way that entity was distorting his mind. So actually, God has shown to me that that individual claimed me based on the fact that he's from the same lineage, so then he would have rights over me. But this is only stupid ideas which that dark force put in his head, you know, because of course he has no rights over me. So what the fuck if so what if we're from the same lineage? You don't have rights to claim me just because we're from the same lineage. Not to mention that you already brought stupid dark forces and addictions, which is basically draining the entire lineage. So I don't appreciate that either, you know. So I was like, I said to God, okay, so how we get rid of this? I don't know this individual. I never spoke to him. He never approached me. He never spoke to me. So it's very complicated. It's not basically something that I can discuss with the individual. Now you're showing me that he has been doing all of this, which is illegal. It's not normal for him to claim me because we never spoke to each other, right? But then you also show me that he does this. I asked, why is he doing this? Because he never spoke to me. Moreover, he's married as far as I understand. So then why is he doing this? And God has shown to me because he has these attachments which he took upon himself in previous lifetimes where when he sold his soul, so became a dominion of some of the principalities. And I'm like, what the fuck? So he's bringing all of this shit into everyone from our lineage existence. So we're all affected by the darkness which this crazy bastard took upon himself. And so you can ask you if that basically impacts on your ability and capacity to move forward and to elevate. God will always make a way for you to fight that force. And I'll tell you this, I fought that force and I defeated it last year because I had much more authority to defeat that force. Now, I want to make a distinction. I fought that force, I defeated it. And so that force doesn't have dominion over the lineage anymore. Okay? Because I have more authority, because I never done any of the things involved in those addictions that he's carrying. But although he's from the lineage, this individual will have to carry on his own individual fight to get rid of that force. I sort of made justice for myself and for other people from my lineage. Okay, so that was already huge advantage, and this is what I was seeking actually. But the individual must carry on his fight. Why? Because the individual actually summoned that force and sold his soul to that force for a specific outcome to take place. So then only he can do that for himself. But somebody else from the lineage can clean the lineage from being weighted down by that type of darkness. Okay, so as I said, this is very, very particular to every individual. You have to work with God in order to understand. And of course, in all of this fight, I invoked and asked the Blue Lodge Ascended Masters, the Lion Race, to help me because they knew the situation. and some of them, of course, were from the lineage, and they also wanted this to be done. They just needed somebody to actually step up and claim that task and do it, you know. So there's this is a time when you can work closely with these forces from Sirius and Lion Race and Blue Lodge Ascended Masters, in order to help you to carry on. First of all, to identify the right tasks and strategies to take in order to fight, so you can actually achieve a victory by the next karmic board meeting, which is in December. Okay, so this is a tremendous help, more applied help, which boosts basically your ability to understand what is going on, to decide on the proper strategy, and to get the help to implement the right strategy. Now, you have to look at your situation and you have to take advantage of this. As I said, the help you receive will differ from individual to individual, depending on where you are on your spiritual path and what is the goal that you establish for yourself to achieve before the next karmic board meeting, before the end of this year, right? So this is very important. Now, of course, I will emphasize now, again, as we are in the Lion's Gate, that I do advise, for example, for women to focus on claiming matriarchat. This is really important. This example that I gave to you is just one of the many arguments why you should do that. Because, for example, as I said, this individual has been making claims on me for years, ever since I moved in this neighborhood. And I had no clue. I had no clue who existed. This is all because of patriarchat type of society in 3D, where basically this individual figured, although he never spoke a word to me, not even to say hello. And I didn't either, because I'm not going to wander around to say hello to all neighbors, and I had no clue that there is somebody from my own lineage living in the same neighborhood on the same street with me, just a few steps away from my gate. I had no clue. I didn't know, and I didn't even see him ever until last fall, when I saw him walking on the street. And God actually guided me to look. God, since last year, God insistently kept showing to me this individual as I was in my own courtyard taking care of my chores, my courtyard and dogs. God always kept showing to me, and later on I understood why. Because I was advancing in my spiritual fighting, I was closing cycles already, and this was one pending issue. And it was pending because I had no clue it existed, namely that this individual made claims on me based on the fact that he's from the lineage. So he figured that he's from the lineage, then he can claim me and he can feed his demons on me, sending his demons at me. And he actually he's part of this, or he used to be part of this convent, which is in this neighborhood. And he actually did ritualic ceremonies at me with this woman who's next door neighbor, who's doppelganger, who's copying me. So they worked together in these ritualic ceremonies, impersonating me, creating all sorts of fake marriages. Even God has shown me this year, for example, that they created, because they wanted my child. But since I'm celibate, then of course nobody has my child, and nobody has any kind of rights or promises or anything on my child. So then the two of them actually did ritualic ceremonies, because they essentially wanted the rights of my child, right? And the gifts of my child. So they made sacrifice rituals at me and sacrifice rituals at my child. And they didn't know what is, I kept having all these darkness attacks at my womb, and there was so much pain. And I kept asking God, what is going on? Where this comes from? And basically was coming from these ritualic ceremonies which they did in order to basically sacrifice my unborn child, uncreated child, to different forces of darkness. Why you think they did this? One thing is because God showed me. He said they did ritualic ceremonies of sacrifice at you, and because you didn't die with all of the witchcraft they sent to you, you still didn't die. Then now it's time for pay up. The forces come at them and they say, you know, the time is up. She's alive. She's not dead. You promised her to me. So what do we do? And then they made more sacrifice rituals at my child. Imagine this craziness. How would you sacrifice someone who's not even created or born? They created this, and they used the ritualic ceremonies they created with fake marriages, where thereby the two of them got married impersonating me. This woman next door to me, she said she's me. She dressed up like me. She made different surgeries to look like me, and she got into a ceremony with him. They created, as I understand, a baby child, and they sacrificed that baby child as being mine. Can you imagine? This is sympathetic magic, voodoo, and Santeria, ritualic ceremonies, which are extremely painful. I cannot explain to you what pains I had into my womb all these past months, and I couldn't understand why. And this is why, because they did all of this. This is crazy. So I encourage, again, women to think seriously of claiming matriarchat, because unfortunately most people, especially those individuals who have been active in spiritual life in 3D, they have this wrong perception that they can claim you, although they have absolutely no rights. They are not even willing to do the proper thing, because I was so puzzled. I told God, I said, I don't understand, nobody actually has approached me even to say good morning, or how can you do this to somebody you never spoke to? Because this is blocking essentially your life. They are feeding on your life. These people were feeding on my life, taking my opportunities and my energy constantly. So I encourage you to do this, to claim matriarchat, because this is a way that you get close to God. You have a different protection, and you receive more information about what is being done against you, and to steal your rights. So it's very important, because most of the narcissistic individuals come with this mentality of patriarchat, where they imagine that only men should be present in astral, and they can do whatever, And as time passed by and they kept working with dark forces, this they can do whatever became more and more shocking. I'm gonna stop now because my neighbor is just at the window, and she's antagonizing my dogs to stop me from doing these videos. So I encourage you to take a close look at the option of matriarchat, to claim matriarchat, and also to take a close look at the opportunities you have through the Lion's Gate.